beautiful day up on the homestead. It's finally real winter. We've had a really nice fall that was drawn out. We had a bit of wax and waning with the snow, but it always melted. But we had a good dump a couple days ago that's staying, and it's sunny too. So it's sunny and cold. It's the perfect combination for good snow. So I've been pretty excited about that up on the homestead here. I'm actually just getting ready some of my equipment for managing my driveway. And I haven't plowed it yet, and I'm not going to plow it yet. Actually, I'm going to let it kind of pack a bit more, so there's a nice base of hard snow where your tracks make, basically where your tires go, that when I plow, I'll be going along that as the top, and I'll be less likely to hit the road and wreck it. And so I'm kind of managing it a bit more carefully this year than I have in previous years. But anyways, I wanted to just talk about at least something I'm perceiving in right now, and you might relate. There's a turning point in liberty as it is experienced to the average man. So we've seen a number of years of technocratic overreach, authoritarianism, you name it. We've seen it, a lot of that in the last number of years. And now there's a bit of a pendulum swinging to some populism in the political right wing, and then some turning points in the narrative, like what happened yesterday on Twitter Spaces, where Alex Jones was unbanned, has his account restored, and then he went on to a Twitter Space with Elon Musk, Mark Dice, Patrick Bet-David, and a bunch of other people called in. But those are the ones that I was really excited about, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. And is it something to be hopeful about? Sure, if you want to be. But what I want to talk about in this video is that some things that I'm kind of excited about and thinking about and optimistic about, but also bringing it back to the cautionary position is no matter what you believe about anybody, you first and foremost have to believe in yourself and God and your family, and take care of those things ultimately. So don't put faith into false idols. Don't put faith into things that you're really hoping for a particular outcome and that are going to move the needle in your life. That's not my message. And so when I talk about things like I'm going to talk about in this one, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's right about who. What matters is that you're moving the needle on your homestead, your family, your life. You're standing with the Creator, that you're moving it forward always. Don't get hung up on idols. And I think that's kind of where I want to start from with the context, or with the context. But yeah, we had a lovely day yesterday. My wife and my kids, we went skiing. We used these skis called Hawk skis. They're like cross-country skis, but they're shorter and they have a skin built in so you can go anywhere with them. Went and got a Christmas tree, had a beautiful day on the snow today. It's lovely. But my wife and I had a chance to listen to this thing on Twitter. I was just on Twitter, and a friend of mine sent it to me, and he's like, check this out. This is happening now. We start listening to it, and it's Alex Jones being interviewed by a guy, and he's kind of, talking about getting unbanned and why he was banned and all this back and forth. And a bunch of guys came in, like Andrew Tate was in there, and then Elon Musk showed up, and he was in there, and it was surreal. I kind of felt like I was witnessing a piece of history, and it's pretty cool, and it was a really cool conversation, quite candid, and yeah, if you haven't checked that out, it's worth a listen to the whole thing. It is really good. I would say the last long form piece of gravy that I had heard from Alex Jones before this one was the interview when he was on with Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo, and they got really esoteric. That was before this one was that, but this one is unreal, and they get into all of it. And so I don't need to talk about everything that they talk about, because you should just go listen to it, because it's pretty cool. But what I'm seeing a lot of people commenting on about that is, probably the majority of people are kind of excited about it if they're truthers or libertarians or anarchists or whatever. They'd probably be excited about it. But then there's this other group of truthers that are always they're the if you go down the truther path so deep, you kind of end up in this position where you just think everything is controlled opposition. And so you become the guy who's like peeking out the blinds. You know, you go full circle. Like during COVID, there was the people that were doing that, right? That bought the narrative, were wearing 3 masks, wouldn't leave their house unless they were freaking out if you weren't social distancing. That kind of level of paranoia and also just distrust of people embodied in that behavior. You can go so far down the truther rabbit hole that you also become that, because then you're looking outside to see if they're chemtrailing. You're not going to go outside if they are. You don't trust people. You think everybody's controlled opposition. You totally believe that you're a targeted individual. You just basically live this existence of fear, which so many people, truthers especially, do. And it's funny with this whole thing with Jones and Musk and Patrick Bet-David. He was in there too. People are just they're all shills. Tucker Carlson. This week was a really big week as far as the idea of liberty being shown that it's very popular. People aren't buying what the New World Order is selling, and a lot of big milestones. That when Alex Jones was on Tucker Carlson, I think it's got 20 million views or something now, and it's only been out for a couple days. It just shows that the market is there for liberty, and you can get excited about that in a number of ways. One is, even if you're just like an entrepreneur, you're a business person and you need to operate your business to exist in the world, you can look at those numbers and go, yeah, there's a lot of like-minded people out there. And despite what we've been told by the media, there's a lot of like-minded people out there, and it's exciting. And so, I really, that conversation with all those guys was really interesting. And I have to admit, I like most of those personalities. I really enjoy Patrick Bet-David. I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate, really, but I can at least see that he's espousing some views and such that I agree with, but maybe his lifestyle I don't really find that interesting. But whatever. Of course, Alex Jones, I've listened to him for 20 years. And I had a phase with Alex Jones where I liked him 20 years ago, and I liked him up until maybe 2008 or 9, and I stopped listening to him for many years because I just found that he could just ramble a bit. But then I actually started to grow on me, and the fact that he's just been right for so long, and of course slandered and smeared, and as anybody who is right and says his things that challenge the establishment narrative will experience, and he's obviously experienced that. And Elon Musk, people always ask me, what do I think about Elon Musk? And I try to, when it comes to people, I try to do my best to just base my observations that I can base observations on them that I can just see, not hearsay, not speculative things, but just what I can see. And I don't really have much of an opinion on him, except that he makes fairly good products that I enjoy, that are really enabling for myself, just individually. I use Starlink. I couldn't do videos and live the rural life that I live. I couldn't do it without Starlink. So, and the version 2 is 10 times better than version 1 was. I have way more stable internet now, and they sent it to me for free, which was kind of cool, the second one. But I have a Tesla. I've driven that for almost 6 years. It's a great vehicle. I love it. It's comfortable. It's nice. And now Twitter, X. it's a great product. It's probably, especially witnessing what happened yesterday, Twitter is going to be the social media platform. And when you hear what Musk said in that Twitter space, the rhetoric is nice. That's all I can say. The rhetoric is nice. I'll also say that I enjoyed Trump's rhetoric when he was running, and I got a little caught up in it, I think, too. But I don't have any belief that Trump is going to change anything for the better. That's just me. But at the same time, I like some of his rhetoric. So when it comes to an opinion on an individual, that's really all I can say. Unless I'm dealing with them in the flesh and have a personal relationship with them, there's only so much you can say. And even with a guy like Elon Musk, and I understand this position because I've thought this myself, is you could think about him and say he's like an antichrist type figure because he's got these, he's getting everybody in, he's winning massive amounts of favor in the collective world that we can witness, and then he goes and dresses like a satanic paladin at that like an evil paladin at that party. I'm not even gonna bother putting the image in here. You know what I'm talking about. And people going, see, he's gaslighting us. He's showing us who he is. And maybe, I don't know. I've dressed up in some silly costumes in my life, and I used to be into death metal music that was considered satanic, though I never was into that. But I think it's pretty easy to stand on the sidelines of something and just make commentary based on things that you can see with your limited perspective. And wouldn't you agree with me that in your life, when you think about a situation or a person or an event, at one point you had a certain perspective on it because you had a certain amount of information. But wouldn't you agree that when you get more information and actually look into things, things often end up being different than what you thought? So if you can agree with me on that, then I think you could come with me to the next step of understanding that it's so easy to just make assumptions and claims about how things are or who people are or what they represent. But if you don't have the information, then you don't really have anything, because things are so nuanced and it's so easy to stand on the sidelines and talk about people and speculate, but you don't really know. It's one thing, say, people used to speculate about Hillary Clinton and how evil she is, and there was those funny rumors that she smelled like sulfur and stuff like that. And that's kind of funny, actually. And I probably would believe it, actually. But it was still what you consider conspiracy theory. It's still theory, right? But then the WikiLeaks come out, the Clinton email leaks that showed her emails, John Podesta's emails, and the horrible things that they were talking about. Barack Obama's emails were in some of that. Then you start to go, okay, that's some evidence. That is something, right? It's not the equivalent of evidence of Elon Musk wears a devil costume to a Halloween party. So it's speculative to, I would say, at least hard evidence that could stand in a court. And so everybody always wants to just speculate, and you hear it all the time with, Alex Jones is controlled opposition. Anybody who becomes prominent gets called controlled opposition. I see people in my comment sections. There's a theory now that I'm a Freemason, and I make hand symbols, and because I do the pyramid thing all the time when I talk about hierarchies. People call me a Freemason. It's people get chased down a rabbit hole on any dumb, pointless thing. And I'm not a Freemason, and I don't do any symbology with my hands, at least intentionally. It's ridiculous. But it just shows you how it's important to keep in mind when you're perceiving the world, perceiving people, that it's just not possible for you to get all the information. So you should only invest so much in an idea or anything like that. And what I say to people that call everybody controlled opposition is that at the end of the day, who really cares? Is what does that do in your life? And I guess for some people, they spend a lot of time worrying about other people. And so I guess then it does move the needle in your life in some way that just doesn't seem healthy to me. But hey, whatever. In my life, that's just not what's moving the needle for me. So whether Elon Musk and Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson are all in on the grand conspiracy, I can't know. And whether they are or not doesn't really matter. Well, it might mean that my car drives me to the gulag. My Tesla drives me to the gulag. And it actually can autopilot my driveway now, believe it or not. How ridiculous that is. Like this driveway. It can autopilot this driveway. But I have other vehicles too, so I'm not all in on one thing. Because, yeah, it could happen. It could happen. But really, how does it move the needle in my life? It doesn't really. That conversation on Twitter Spaces yesterday was very entertaining, if that's all it was. It was very entertaining. And it's sometimes it's just fun to indulge in something hopeful, something that even in my own experience resonates with where I'm at in my life, because I've taken significant steps, and I've been sharing a lot of them along the way here, a lot of significant steps to achieve freedom, liberty, and prosperity. And I've demonstrated that with my work and what we've done on the Homestead and all of that. And so I'm working hard to get freedom, prosperity, and liberty. And it also seems like a lot of other people are working hard to get freedom, liberty, and prosperity. And that's exciting. It's exciting. And if it is all a grand psyop, well, then I guess all it really cost me at the end was some false excitement, which I'm sure when I look back in my life and say, did that harm me in any way? I would probably say absolutely not. Because even in the moment, sometimes you can just enjoy the show. You know, enjoy the show. Don't get so invested in the show that it's causing some kind of instability, emotional instability, or whatever. Make sure that it's not harming you. But you go and watch dumb videos on the internet, cat videos, prank videos, whatever, and you have a laugh. So if you can even at best have a laugh with what's going on right now, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So I think it's I feel like there's a shift in the air, and where it will all go, who knows? All I can say is, you know, my context in that you're watching my video is that I've been making videos for a long time, and YouTube pretty much sucks now. I've been posting on YouTube for 10 years, and it pretty much sucks. And then you see a platform like Twitter just creating all this, basically just keeping an open throttle on the algorithm, in the sense that Twitter seems to just favor content that people like, whereas YouTube favors dumb clickbait, anything that makes you stupid. That's what YouTube favors. Whereas Twitter is far more of a place for constructive conversations. And I have to say, as somebody who took many years off social media, I went off all the social medias except YouTube for years during COVID and all that. I just got off. I didn't want to see all my friends turn into idiots and just have me forever bummed out about them. So I just exited quietly, really. And up until that point, because I was on there commenting during COVID at the very beginning of it, is you could just see how toxic this is becoming, and sitting there and arguing with all these people all the time for what? It seems like Twitter's algorithm, at least how I'm experiencing it, doesn't really favor that. It actually really makes it easy to end it. And I there's so many bots on Twitter now. It's crazy. There's bots that basically, they just get you looped into a rabbit hole of arguing with them forever, and they will literally go forever. And this is what I'm seeing, is that, and you think about the macro of where that could go, is very quickly, if not already, there's people online who are having conversations all day with bots. And you are just putting your God-given energy into something that has no yield. And I think it's a really good psychological trap. It's a really good way to get people not tuned in to the Great Awakening and just get them plugged into the Great Reset, whether they know it or not. Is that if you're just on there fucking talking shit and just calling people names and wasting so many back and forths with bots or just other haters, they're getting you. But all these tools are important too, and I spent the last whatever in this video talking about that. But look where I am, and you could be in a place like this too. You really could. It just takes action. And it doesn't always start for you as it would have started for me. Your context really is the thing that is the foundation of where you should start. Of how do I get out of the urban hellhole, which is so much of the geographical area of the United States, Canada, or any country, but that's the area that I spend a lot of time looking at. But there's so many small towns. There's so many. If you just want to get out and you don't have money to go buy property, just getting out and going to a smaller town, you would be surprised how many job opportunities there are in small towns. I see everywhere. Every small town I go to, I see help wanted signs all the time. But there's also a lot of people moving to small towns. I've seen a little bit of a sort of a renaissance in small town life as a lot of people expatriate from larger areas, municipal areas, to smaller ones. And there's a lot of businesses starting up. There's people getting to know each other. I mean, I'm more social here than I was in Kelowna, at least with meaningful things. You know, when we live in a city or a bigger town, you have a lot of just interactions because you're just in an area of high density with people, and so you interact with people. But those interactions are always totally neutral. They're not necessarily one thing or the other. They're just interactions by default because you're in the place. So in a way, they're meaningless. They're just like walking amongst rocks and trees. But and the more liberal your city is, the more unpleasant that is. Just walking around and seeing all the filth, all the junkies, all the just zombie town, which exists in so many cities. My hometown of Kelowna is zombie town. When I drive through downtown, there's a junkie on every corner that's doing that whole thing. Like, that is everywhere. But as I was saying about just getting out, just going to a small town, maybe you have to take a job that isn't ideal, But a lot of people can work online these days, so that affords a lot of people the ability to just try to just move your location. That's very freeing. There's a book about that actually that's very interesting called The Sovereign Individual. I'd highly recommend reading it. I forget the author's name, but it's kind of about. It was written pre-Y2K, and the book kind of frames that as a big turning point because the shit's going to hit the fan, which it didn't in that regard. But the book is really bang on with how humans will experience or not experience sovereignty and the path to liberty in the changing technological times. And the thesis the guy makes in the book really is that in the future, which is now as he describes it in the book, people will be able to work online and they'll be able to choose the nation state that they live based on the highest degree of freedom offered. And, that phenomenon exists for many people you probably know or hear about. There's all these expats going to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Ecuador, Mexico, and living a high standard of life for a fraction of the cost that they'd pay in their home country, but then can still make money there, and they don't pay any taxes or anything. So that is an example of what this guy talks about in this book. And it's absolutely true that, and this is perhaps what ties into where we are now with this seemingly shift to the right. It's just as far as culture and politics, as this pendulum is coming back to the right, is that people are realizing that they want freedom because freedom is popular. And a number of years of a lot of steps towards totalitarianism away from freedom has really wakened people up to that. But going back to where I was saying with finding another place to be is, a lot of people can work online. And also because of that, there's a higher demand for jobs that aren't online. And it means that even young guys can go and get a job at like a tire shop, changing tires on vehicles, and get a way higher starting wage than, and I would say even adjusted for inflation, as when I was that age and I would have got a job like that. And because it's just scarce. There's not many people who want to work with their hands. Think about how many useless people there are who don't have any practical skills. It's a lot of people. It's I would say a fairly identifiable majority of people that exist in Western society are that when times get tough, what will they do? Where will they get food? There's only 3 days of food in North America on the grocery store shelves. So if there was a food crisis of some kind, the trucks didn't roll in for a week, people would literally be starving in a week's time because the food would just run out of the city, and then people are trapped in a geographical area in a city which is limited by bridges, dams, highways, overpasses, underpasses, what have you. It's a pretty crazy scenario to think about. And it's biggest reason I think you should get out of the city is not because of the politics necessarily, it's the people. But the politics affect the people, and the politics brainwash the people too, and that also mobilizes people one way or the other. But there's nothing more that mobilizes a person is starvation or thirst or extreme exposure. Any type of scenario like that, people will do whatever it takes. And anyways, this video ended up not being really too much all what I wanted to talk about, because I wanted to mostly talk about that whole Twitter space and my enjoying my optimism of where things are turning, and ended up talking about prepper stuff too, which is, I guess it is my context. So I'll leave it there for this one, folks. I'm doing Twitter spaces every 8 p.m. Wednesday. This week I've got Ben Falk, author of The Resilient Homestead, incredible permaculture thinker and doer, practitioner. We're going to be talking about the resilient firewood setup and what that looks like. So that'll be after the live stream this Wednesday on Twitter X Spaces. Hope to see you guys there at Off Grid Stone over there. Also, all videos are going to Rumble now too. So Rumble is the next YouTube channel. If you want to follow me there, please do. We're right in the phase of copying my whole YouTube library over to Rumble, and it takes quite a bit of time. It's all automated, but it literally takes days. So, but anyways, that's been going on. And so you can find me there if you just search Off-Grid Curtis Stone on Rumble. And I'll put the necessary links in the show notes here. But yeah, we'll leave it there for this one, folks. See you in the next one.